Welcome, lovely one, to the Meant for More podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford, and I am building the world's most empowering Meant for More movement, leading millions of heart-led purpose seekers from feeling insignificant to invincible. So I truly hope you enjoy this next episode. So welcome to Jo White, and for all of you watching and listening, you are joining in a genuinely we've never met before, we've never spoken before. I just had an instinct that Jo and I would get on. It's not a date, don't worry. You're not going to be observing a date. Well, who knows where things go.
Yes. This is not OnlyFans page, none of that.
Oh dear, I need to buckle up, I'm sure. Jo and I don't know each other, but Jo is a master Firewalk instructor trainer in America. And I'm one here in our Great Britain, and somehow we became connected on Facebook, and I have highly respected the posts that you've been putting out on Facebook, and you've been supporting mine, and I just think what a wonderful community. So with blind faith and trust and my guiding intuition, I thought it'd be fun if I got to understand and know you better. And I thought everybody at home could listen. And I wonder what questions other people would be asking in this conversation if they were me chatting to you. So welcome. Thank you for trusting me with your credibility, your heart, your soul, Jo. And my podcast is Meant for More. So I'm creating a Meant for More movement. And I know I've had several, and I wonder which one you'd like to pick to choose to talk about. A moment in your life where you knew you were meant for more. It's okay to take a deep breath and think.
There's many times in my life, that I recognize I'm meant for more. And I'm a very human person. And a lot of my life is public because I allow it to be. How I got into this world, this world, how I got into this work, how I got into firewalking. And, most of the times in life, our changes comes at our worst time. Sometimes when we think we're not worth anything, right? And we're not here for more. And I think that's a feeling that most people feel at times for periods or longer periods in their lives. I think it's part of the human nature. And I don't know if there was a moment in my life where I'm like, oh, I knew I'm destined, I'm here for that. I'm more that struggling musician type that I know in my heart I'm here for more. I know I'm here for more because God put me on this earth for more. He certainly would not have spared my life, kept me going for as long as I'd be 59. So for 59 years of my life, there's so many times when it could have ended bad for me. Physically, life and death, financially, emotionally, unrecoverableness, right? That type of thing. But and I battle with that at times. I'm a human being, I hurt, you hurt. I think sometimes people in our field, we try to be too much of a inspiration and not enough of a human too, because people get inspired by, not by, look what I achieved, but look what I had to go through, right? And it's the moments when I recognize that those feelings of not being here for more, right? When they've gotten threatened, or I feel I'm on the edge, and somehow, some way, I find a way to reestablish, right? To recommit, to pick yourself up and push on again, no matter how much, and it's in those moments, that's when it connects to me. Right? It connects to me like I am here for more because that's what I'm doing. Because I didn't stop. I didn't quit. I didn't give up. And giving up means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right?
Well, and also I think it's when we think about giving up that we realize that we didn't give up. I don't think not giving up comes into our consciousness, and until we know that we thought about giving up.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know
I
what
mean,
I
we
mean? Like, and that is
absolutely.
a spectrum of different possibilities of what giving up could look like. It could be giving up on a relationship, it could be giving up on a job or a contract or our health or ourselves.
Right?
And so what I'm hearing when you're speaking is that um the moments that got your awareness the most were when you thought, actually, I'm not meant for much.
Yeah. And
And
you know
you
what popped in my mind is two of my favorite books: The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, and Siddhartha, Hermann Hesse. And if you read both or familiar with the stories, it's the same story. In the pursuit of your own personal legend, or in Siddhartha, we go all these different ways, and in both stories, we find our hero at a point of giving up, of quitting, of jumping in the river, or giving up the pursuit. And it's in those moments of desperation, sometimes we find the truth that we're not meant to give up, that we are here for more. You know what I mean? But we have to go into that space, because that space is authentic. It feels like crack. We don't want it. We want to deny it, dismiss it, distract ourselves, scroll, whatever it is. But it's in those moments that we recognize our own humanity, not our ego, but our own humanity. And I think there's grace and power in that when we come to it from that place.
What are you about then, Joe? So you've got this wonderful energy. You've got like it's almost like a speaker vibe about you. But if we go under the surface and right into here, what's the crack about Joe? What's the point of Joe? What do you breathe for? I mean, in addition to your daughter, what were you put on this planet for, and what matters to you?
To help people realize that they are enough, right? That's what it comes down to, right? Because I got into all this through coaching. That was my first business venture in the personal development field, and that led to Firewalking with Tony Robbins, and led me to getting certified as a Firewalk instructor, and eventually buying the Firewalking Institute, right? A short cliff notes. And in those times, all I think very often in our lives we gravitate to helping people with some of the same problems that we have, right? And if you boil everything down, there's only a handful of challenges and problems that people have, different manifestations, but it's the same handful. And it boils down to people don't feel they're worthy, they don't feel enough, they don't feel loved, right? And life is hard. I am not a motivational thinker. I'm not a positive thinker. I'm a pragmatic person most of the time. And very often we have the ability, we just don't believe we do. And that consequence takes up chunks, if not our whole lives. And we can believe in heaven, we can believe in reincarnation, we can believe in whatever we want. The only thing I know is that all could be there, but I know life is here. And I don't want to miss this for that. I want to enjoy this because this is meaningful. This is meaningful. The work you do is meaningful. Raising my daughter is meaningful, right? Because we're here to do meaningful things. That's what we're here for. We find our own lane, but that's what drives us. So helping people to realize really that they're not worthless, they can be empowered. They can have the lives that they have. And no matter how bad that situation can be, there's always a way out. And there's always a better step. You just got to keep pushing and holding the fort until you get there. And if you can help someone get there faster, more empowered with tools or through an experience like firewalking, I mean, firewalking as instructors, we don't even have to do much. She's the teacher, not us. That's what I believe. My job is to set the stage and get out of the way and let her, she's a her to me, let her do what she does, transform lives. That makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, I think when I completely hear you when you say people's attention is often devoured by the sense of not enoughness, and that people don't even have an awareness a lot of the time. It's just playing out in lots of different perspectives, behaviors, inaction and action, restriction, limitation. And so it's a gift when somebody is in a place of self-trust, when they think, I don't need to look outside myself for the answer. I can trust my intuition, I can entrust my curiosity, I can trust my desire, I can trust my whoa, not now, I'm not doing this. And that becomes a very powerful person, and a very unstoppable person from the layers of all of those things. And so it makes total sense. Is there I've got lots of questions, but which one am I going to pick? Because I'm just wondering, is there something that happened to you in your life or you experienced in your life that you thought, this is where I want to put my focus? Was there a catalyst that life presented you with that said, Joe, Joe, we've got plans for you, but you've got
Yes.
to sit
Yeah.
on the naughty step for a minute whilst I
Well,
show you the plan.
I think I'm the story of lost and found, right? And it's been a predominant theme. The major part starts, well, it started when at my birth, but really, at 20 years old, I moved to New York City. Um, I worked at a major nightclub called the Limelight. There used to be a Limelight in London. It's a 18th century church. They converted to a discotheque, right? And I moved to New York to do modeling. I met a famous photographer named Stephen Meisel. Shot Madonna's like a Virgin cover. He shot her sex book. So I was in Rolling Stone magazine. I was in Valentino's window. So I moved up to New York to do modeling and I wanted to pursue a singing career. I couldn't sing. I just had good hair. Right.
If in doubt.
We're going back so I can date people here. So we're going back to 89, 90, 91.
Mm.
So we're
So let
going
me
back.
just check, recap then. So you, at 20, you went to New York to a nightclub and you became a model.
Well, I got through a mutual friend. I got discovered by Stephen Meisel. Well, I from Philadelphia at the time, so I went up to New York. I did the photo shoots up there. So then I figured, oh, I could do more because he could get me in any agency I wanted to get into. Right, pretty good carte blanche with him behind you. Um, and so, believe it or not, someone saw a picture in Rolling Stone. I was holding a guitar. He goes, "Do you play it?" He saw it. Somehow he got my number, and he was the doorman at the Limelight. And he said, "Oh, you could stay with me in Chelsea, and I could get you a job." So that's how I got. That's why I went to New York, and that's how I got working at the nightclub.
What were you doing at the nightclub?
Startup dishwasher, busboy.
Ah.
But I've always been like a go-getter. I've always understood how to work with people, and I ended up working the VIP lounge and becoming friends with uh, Colombian drug smugglers who were friends of the GM. And
Hang
and
on,
I got
pause. Just pause a moment.
big gap there.
Let's have just a little recap. So you ended up making friends with a Colombian drug lord.
The smugglers. I didn't know at the
Smugglers.
time. I just knew they dealt cocaine.
Right, okay.
It wasn't until I saw them on the news a year later that I realized who they were.
Right. Are they part of your catalyst for change?
Well, not necessarily, but but that lifestyle, I became addicted to drugs. An alcoholic. I overdosed. in one of those apartments, right, the lofts. I had to get drugged out by my girlfriend at the time because he literally the guy turned to my girlfriend and said, "Your boyfriend's dying. He's blue. He can't die in here. You need to remove him from the loft now. I'll call 911, but you got to drag him out." And she
Yeah.
drugged me out, and he called 911. He resuscitated me, and the next day I got out and I said, "You know what? Cocaine can't kill me. I'm going to go out and prove it wrong." And I continue my addiction.
And how long for, Joe? From what age to what age?
I mean, my drinking started like when I was 18. Right? I was drinking a little bit, but it took off for a good 3 year, 2.5 years in New York until I realized it wasn't me. I don't know how much you know about addiction. It wasn't me. It was New York. It was my environment. So I moved out of New York back to my parents' house. But a year later, 8 months later, I was kicked out because I drained all my parents' liquor bottles. Right? At that point, I was still getting high. I was just out of control. So they kicked me out of my apartment. I moved my parents' house. I got this 2 room apartment in a little place called Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. It's part of Delco. If people know what Delco is in the USA. And I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was depressed on antidepressants, seeing psychiatrists and psychologists. And I saw an infomercial for Tony Robbins and his personal power cassette tapes. And Professor, it could change your life if you just buy these tapes. And I watched that infomercial for 3 consecutive days, nights at 1 a.m. And on the third night, I bought the tapes. And I remember writing down the number, convinced it wasn't going to work because I thought I tried everything, but
Yeah.
I didn't try anything. And my brain, my moment of sanity was my brain goes, well, what if I could get off cocaine? But I didn't realize it wasn't just the cocaine. It was the alcohol. It was all the mind and mood ordering stuff I was putting in my body. And that's not really the issue of addiction. That's just the manifestation. It's all this stuff I haven't worked through yet from earlier in my life. And I just want to get out of me.
Yeah.
And I said, if these tapes would work, I would get off cocaine. Well, I bought the tapes. It was November of 1993. I don't know if you did the program. Day one, the first question were 2 changes or decisions you need to make to change your life. I literally wrote down clean my apartment was number one. Stop doing coke was number two. Because I thought I could do cocaine one more time, clean my apartment, then I would not do coke again. And I thought, no, that's bullcrap. I couldn't do that. That's junko logic. And I literally erased it and rewrote it, stopped doing coke, and cleaned my apartment. It took me to March 17th, St. Patty's Day, purely accidental, 1994, until I became clean and sober.
Congratulations.
And I listened to those Tony Robbins tapes for 5 years, literally over and over and over again. I went to 12-step meetings, but it was the first time in my life I just was beginning to learn what NLP was and other things because I went to therapy and therapy never worked for me. Talking about crap in your life that makes you feel like crap doesn't make you feel better. It just brings it up. Didn't know what to do with it when it was up the first time. Didn't know what to do with it then. But all of a sudden, I realized, oh, there's tools. I can rewire my brain. I did not know that. And that became powerful for me.
Mm. And is that how you got into firewalking then? Because when did you do? You must have done Tony Robbins Unleash.
99,
Yeah.
or
And
maybe 2000. Yeah.
so tell
So,
me about that experience of in 1999 doing Tony Robbins' massive seminar. I mean, how many people were at it?
the interesting thing was before that, Tony did a thing called Results 2000, and he would have like all these speakers, everybody from Donald Trump to professional athletes, Brian Tracy, all these different speakers, and that was the first time I went, and I didn't understand the power of immersion. of being locked in a
Yeah.
room, right, and learning like that. And I was so enamored by that. I went home, signed up for my first Firewalk, the UPW in San Francisco. And that was mind blowing because, know, I don't know how many people back then, 10,000 people, right? And if you or one of your listeners never did a Tony type of firewalk, you're outside, these big masses of people, you get queued into these lines, and, next thing you know, you see a firewalk lane in front of you, right? And I remember walking. It was incredible. I went back to my hotel room. I stared at my feet for 30 minutes in total disbelief that I did it. And from that moment on, I loved firewalking. And I did a whole bunch of firewalks with Tony. I did the 40-foot, the old life mastery in Hawaii and different things like that. And I loved firewalking. Time I was recruited and it started the process to become a coach for Tony Robbins, right? I love Tony. And just at that point, I started realizing, maybe this goes back to your first question, that I didn't believe I was here to help Tony. I believed I had a voice that I had to carry, right? And that's when I opened up my coaching company. It all happened around the same time. In 1999, I opened up Get Life Coaching. And at my seminars, I used to do board breaks. I have a couple of black belts, been in martial arts for the majority of my life. Probably around 2012, a friend of mine called me, one of my old leaders in the Hawaii life mastery. And we kept in contact. Said, Joe, I just got back from this training. Remember, we were talking about it. Yeah, Tawi isn't running it anymore. A new guy is Charles, is down in Texas. And he told me about the Glasswalk, the rebar, the arrow, da 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 da. And then he drove to my office. I remember who I talked to, some kid named Mateo, and I signed up. And then April, I went and got certified and never looked back from firewalking.
That was in 2012, you certified as an instructor.
Yeah, somewhere around that. Yeah. And I think I
Yeah.
became a master like 2015
Right.
or
And
14.
and so there are so many. I mean, when the fire calls you, it calls you. It was so unexpected for me because I remember when I trained as an instructor in 2008, but I remember thinking, what can I do with people that help them believe in themselves without a shadow of a doubt? And my little mind out of nowhere said, well, be a firewalking instructor. I didn't know a single firewalking instructor. There weren't many back then. And then in the
Right, right.
UK, you're like, I didn't know any. And I thought, don't be ridiculous. You're too short. You're a woman. It's the SAS guys that do it. You can't do it. I didn't even love my Tony Robbins experience in 2004. There was 12,000 of us that
Yeah.
walked across 3 gravel car parks, and I was going over them in that peak state of, yes, 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 like a idiot. And so I didn't have an amazing experience. So I had no idea why my mind said, be a firewalking instructor. I'm very glad it did. And I trained with Peggy Dillon. And then I did all my training with Peggy. And I feel that when the fire calls you, and I do only transformational firewalks, that you have a responsibility so it's like we're a caretaker of its sacred magic. And like you said right at the beginning, Joe, we get out of the way. Our job is not to convince or cajole or encourage. It's to let people have whatever comes up when it comes up for them, and it moves with them. And then, so you then became a master trainer. And when did you make that decision to think, do you know, I'm going to train people to be instructors? Because it's a commitment, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just learning how to do it. It's like, this part of my soul belongs to this. So tell me about that for you.
I mean, it's think one of the top reasons is because it gave me a new revenue stream, right? The ability to run my own fits. I've always been that type of person that I like to control my lane. I'm not a controlling person, but I like to control my lane. So a lot of my life has been like how to get things and obstacles and people and things out of my way so I can have unfettered access to that lane. So I thought, wow, I could hold my own fits. It would be great for business and it would be a great way for me to grow within fire. So I started doing a lot of fits, and I was still very involved with the institute. I would go to, I became more or less like the head trainer, more or less, um, at that time, and again fell in love with the process.
Mm. I I found the I trained in 2014 to be a master trainer, but I didn't run a fit for 10 years. And part of it was self doubt, and that, crikey, these people deserve me to be at my absolute best, that I've got something of value to give them, not just that I know how to train people to be instructors in it. And so, and then when I trained my first fit, which was 2023 or 24, 24. So it was only last year. I realized why my soul needed more time, and it wasn't more time for me to be confident, but it was more time for me to have the stories and the experiences and the mistakes and the revelations that I got by putting the hard miles under my belt. Those constantly showing up and delivering as a firewalking instructor to then teach from that lived experience. And as you say, immersive.
Yeah,
And then now what I realize each time I teach a training, and I'm interested to know what it's like for you, is I feel like I was born to do it. That absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm not going from memory. It's just in me. And but also I give my soul, like something takes over me for 6 whole days and nights, and they get everything I've got so that they can be the most immersive, powerful, confident, transformational leader. So that's my kind of intention throughout it all. What was it like for you to go from being an instructor to being a trainer to leading that first ever training? And what did
yeah.
you learn about yourself in it?
Well, I was pretty confident in my skills because I did. I as soon as got back, I did my friends and family firewalk right away, because I already had seminars that I did board breaking and other activities in that I could just plug and play firewalk. So I went from getting certified to doing 8 to 10 firewalks a year.
Yes, yes.
Right. So I got a lot of experience, plus going back. And, when I was going through the process for me was you go to fit, then there was e-fit. And then once you go to e-fit, and it's still true for us today, is once you get done e-fit, then there's 6 fit that you have to attend and teach every element to the standard of the Firewalking Institute. Right. So I felt like my skill set, I felt confident because by nature, I'm not a detail oriented person. So if I need to be detail oriented, then I'm all in and I'm hyper detailed. So I became like very knowledgeable, understanding multiple layers. So from that standpoint, I felt really strong about that. The feeling for me was like I'm finding a new way to transform lives, right? And helping other people to fulfill that mission too. And all that just fits like nested children under the whole helping people to realize who they really are and live their best lives, right? It all fits within that. And I loved it. I wanted to do it more. And that's why was it? I think it's 4 years, 5 years ago, November. I got a phone call from at that time the owner of the Firewalking Institute, and he said, "Joe, I'm getting out. You want to buy?" And I'm like, yes. Because I want to do more of this. I want to spread fire, and through our channels as much as we can, because it is such a powerful, there's nothing like it. Like, and I always say this, the, firewalking is the granddaddy of all high impact activities. And I'm not saying like rock climbing or ice baths or all that stuff isn't great, but people have such a visceral connection to fire before they come. It could be, it's so beautiful, or I'm petrified of it because my house burnt down as a child, right? And the fact that it transforms and gives people exactly what they need if they're open to receive it. I've never saw anything work like that. I can take someone and turn their life around. I've been doing that for 26 years, right? But I know I'm doing that. I know I'm moving levers and pushing buttons.
Mm.
Firewalking is like hands, and in my world is hands off. We do everything we can to get them ready, but then we give them that moment. And I'll take it a step forward further because you brought it up too. I hold and I teach this with every element. Like, let people have their own personal experience. They don't need a cheerleader. They don't need someone in their ear the whole experience. You can do it. You can do it. For me, that shows more ego. It's more about the instructor. I
Yeah.
think we set it up. Let them have their experience. Let them have their Siddhartha or alchemist, Santiago moment. Let them discover their greatness, because at the end of the day, it's inside of them. And you can tell them it's inside of them. I can tell it's inside of them, but it doesn't click until they recognize it's been inside of me. And I don't know, are you a Stranger fans? Are Stranger Things fans? Have you been watching it?
I haven't been watching it, no.
So I'll just say it real quick here. So they're wrapping up this 5 season thing, and at the end of this, they did 5 episodes, took a break, and now Christmas Eve they're going to do another one and wrap up New Year's. And it's one big pivot. The whole storyline pivoted, and there's this one kid who's been afraid the whole time. Right, he was taken by the demons and all that, and he had a moment where he came out, where he discovered his power, his Siddhartha moment. And they were doing this montage, and exactly what he said to himself. He said, I've been looking outside myself my whole life for the answers when they were always inside of me. Right? I have to stop being afraid. And I'm like, God, that is so powerful. And it's so true. And that's what given the participants that moment to discover. I don't have to look to you. I don't gotta look to Tony. I don't gotta look to Joe White. I don't look to anybody. All the answers are within me. So now I can stop being afraid. That's when the game changes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think even if the stop being afraid isn't a thing and they're still afraid, they don't have to not do something. They don't have to wait till they're free of fear. They can still feel. I mean, I know Susan Jefferson says it brilliantly: feel the fear and do it anyway. And I think that's the thing. I think so many people are waiting for things to feel right before they do it. But what they're not recognizing, that in that unconscious bank of resistance are the limiting beliefs that are going to influence the not feeling right in order to keep them safe. And so I love it because it's one of the most powerful, I think it is the most powerful thing that brings us into our consciousness where we rarely live. We're only now, people are happiest when they're sleepwalking, and doing things automatically. And that
Yep.
traditional thing of driving the same route each day, but not remembering passing the big buildings or the milestones. And how did I get here? I don't remember going past those things. Because our brain just puts us into autopilot, and then it's in control of keeping us safe. And I think the firewalk is the real attention getter. It holds us in our consciousness longer and deeper than any other than anything else. Anything
Yes.
else.
And I can only imagine how many fire walks I've walked in my career now, right? Thousands upon thousands. And every time, fire walking, fire standing, 8 feet, 40, 108, it doesn't matter. Every fire walk has taught me something, even the ones I don't walk at.
Yes.
Sometimes she doesn't call me. I'm like, really? Come on. Then other times I don't want to walk. I'm like, I'm not walking. I don't feel it. No, no. And she goes, walk. I'm like, come on. I literally talk to the fire sometimes. Like, come on. No, walk. Okay. So it's the only vehicle I have never run out of learning from. I mean, it's always it always feels fresh to me because every experience, and I don't get that with any other modality like that, except firewalking. Except firewalking.
Mm. Yeah, somebody was saying to me the other day when I said to them on a podcast, it is the most powerful training I believe on the planet. And
Hmm. I say the same thing.
my guest said, "Oh, I'd like to challenge you to that, Lisa. Open water swimming and ice baths." Now, I've not done either, but I think my because you've done both, haven't you?
No, no, I've never done an ice bath. I've never done open water. No.
I think
I've done skydiving. I've walked on lava in Hawaii. I've done a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, I've got 59 skydives. I was licensed at a point, but I think because of our connection to fire, fire is so much like us. Fire needs air. We need air. Fire needs food. We need food. Fire needs heat. We need heat, motivation, drive. We are very connected to fire.
yeah, yeah. And what has been the most transformational thing you've ever seen the fire do to any of your students or participants? What has been their biggest um, breakthrough that
Okay.
you've seen?
So I have a lot of stories, right? But the one that comes to my mind is a young woman named Maria. Maria, I was coaching her mom and her son at different points before I got to her. She was, prior to this, she was homeless, addicted to drugs, probably did some prostitution. Her son was being raised by by her mom, right? At this point, when I got to her, she was about 70 pounds with through eating disorders. She's now at a point where she's unable to eat. Okay. So this has been going on for so long. Her body just wants to reject food. And so she came to the seminar and it was so, and we came to the fire walk and, you have to be able to walk a straight and direct her out. Right. And she has, crutches and she can't walk, but giving her that space and setting it up in a safe way, we took extra safety precautions and never pushing her, right? And she walked and it was huge. But I don't think that was I think sometimes we need a breakthrough to get to the breakthrough, like the door into the room. So I do a seminar where the first night we do firewalking, then we do all the deep stuff on Saturday, and then we end it with a board break on Saturday night. And my concern was she can't do the board break because of her bones are so brittle, right? So I have workarounds, a hammer, this and that. And she said, Joe, I want to try to break it, right? I'm like, you can't. And she goes, I have to try. And like safer, safest, right? But sometimes my intuition, right, just takes over. And maybe I make a judgment call in a different arena I would never make. But when I'm in that moment, I trust my source. I trust my instinct. I trust that connection with the other person. And she broke that fucking board. Right? I said, you get one shot, right? And why that was so powerful was she 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 was dying, And they said there could nothing she could do. She realized there was a surgery. They could take some of her colon and transplant to her intestines. And again, she's 70 pounds. 70 pounds. And every doctor said, no, 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 no. It may kill you. This girl fought. You want to talk about firewalk? This is her firewalk. She fought physicians until she found a physician to say, he's right. She's dead. She's dead if we do nothing. This may kill her, but at least she wants to try to live. And she did it. It was brutal. She pushed through it. She's like 146 pounds healthy now,
Oh,
right? That is so powerful because she would have been dead if it wasn't for firewalking. And again, she did what the fire taught her is that she has the ability, right? She doesn't have to look outside herself. She had it within her to fight doctors, fight her body, fight whatever it takes to save her life. And she won. Powerful.
wow. Excuse me. That's a absolutely amazing story. And even, I think even the decision before the decision, um, when you said no, and she said, I want to do it. It's like her soul knew, when I do this and conquer this, I know I'm ready for all that I need in me. And like, I always think that the purpose of the exercise is the teaching, the exercise is the evidence, the
Mm,
body needs. The brain's got it. The
yeah.
brain's got the purpose. When we're teaching and we're layering our stories in and our models that they can duplicate over and over again, they get it. But then the experience of the board break or the arrow break or the glass walk or the firewalk or the rebar bend, that's the evidence that for me the rebar is it's my favorite, but it's the one exercise that on all my fits brings people to the knees in tears. Like, they stand, and it's that moment when people are standing and seeing what they're going to do and what it needs, what it requires of them. I mean, I make everybody put everything they've got into everything, whether we need that much of what they're
Mhm.
doing,
Yep.
because why would you just do enough? So that's part of what I'm teaching. But the rebar, when people do that, there's a massive story rewritten in their mind about who
Yep.
they are. And there's never a better sentence that I say than, and I have to swear to say it because I can't say it without it, that's who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
feel it right to their bones because they know what was going through their mind, their biggest barrier, their biggest limitation. They know what was going through their
Mm,
mind when they see it demonstrated.
yep.
And then
And yeah.
then they know what it took of them to take those 2 or 3 steps to put themselves in the position to do it. So there's so many layers of transformation that's happening before they even do the exercise, isn't there? And it's that
Yeah.
power of what we were saying earlier of holding them in that space, allowing the silence and the pause and
Mhm.
the what others might get uncomfortable with, the waiting for somebody to step forward, but not encouraging that pace, because in that process of them before they step forward, they are imagining, they're rehearsing, they are thinking about the old stories, they're thinking about who they're going to be, they're thinking about what if I fail, and then they go through all of that, then step forward. For me, whether they bend the bar, break the arrow, walk, do anything, whether they actually do it perfectly the first time is completely irrelevant. They've just walked the longest distance. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, I said one of the reasons why I love the rebar too and the arrow, because those two experiences are different than every other element out there. Because you don't feel discomfort firewalking until you step onto the coal bed. You don't feel the glass until you step on. Everything is like the false evidence appearing real, right? Oh, okay, I'm feeling normal here, but my fear is when I do this, I'm going to experience something. Rebar, arrow, you physically feel discomfort. No one likes that thing there. Even when I'm demo, I'm like, I hate this, right? I hate that feeling of the rebar shoved up in there. But like that becomes the battle. 'Cause we talked about, again, we talked a little bit about, like, about fear and stop being afraid. And for me, that is exactly what you said, is stop not taking action because you feel fear. Right. Right. And that's the rebar, because you're feeling it before, right? You have to have that trust, push forward, feel the fear, and do it anyway. Those two elements are so unique and bring such a unique layer of learning and understanding and transformation that firewalking and glasswalk doesn't quite touch the same.
Yeah, and I think because it's unexpected. I mean,
Yes.
so
Oh,
many
right. Yeah.
people, because I don't share with people in advance. Yeah, I do to the decision maker, but I don't share with people in advance when they're on one of my events. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, because I don't want their
Yeah.
their old mindset to process it and then put all the layers of safety in. So I wait till we're together, and then we're about to do the next thing and the next thing, because we've expanded uh, that possibility for them. And but they're not expect people often say about the thing that I am that was most transformational for me, that they say when they've done the arrow break and the firewalk in the same evening, was the arrow break. And the
Yeah.
arrow break will be the thing they least prepare themselves for, because they don't know it's going to happen. um
Right.
so and they're loaded with so much purpose. I mean, I've seen the arrow break done by people where it's just a break the arrow. But the way I've been trained and the way I train it and the way I always deliver it is, we load it with intention and purpose. So when you break
Yeah.
it, you know you're breaking through ancestors' worth of limitation and conditioning and patterning, not just yours. And you're not just ending it for yourself, you're ending it for your future generations to come. So it's like it's loaded with so much potential and possibility that when they step up, there's a total rewiring
Yes.
going on, and a story they can never deny themselves.
I love when the arrow or rebar, and they place it right here. They take that hard gulp, right? I know. You sure it's supposed to be right here? I'm like, yep.
Yeah, and
Because
it's
they,
actually the most tender part of,
yeah,
unless you're a man, of course, but it's the most, because this is the kill zone, isn't it?
yeah,
So on an
yeah.
unconscious
It's the most
level.
sensitive part of the body. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
it becomes so counterintuitive.
yeah. So, what do people not know about you, Joe? Because I can see that we've seen the guy that's really committed to the path of transformation for people and helping them know that they're enough, and to be, to look to themselves for the answers, and for that real depth of commitment to
Mhm.
your purpose. But who is Joe? What is it that we don't know about you? I mean, obviously we've known each other 5 minutes.
Yes.
What is it that normally people don't know about you that do know you? And I know you sound like an open book.
I think my whole coaching approach, right? And this goes with seminars and everything else, right? I am a roll my sleeve up. We're getting this done. Okay. It is kind of how I am wired. I am raw, I am honest. Okay. And people sometimes think, there's a lot of coaches out there. Everyone's different, right? These ultra masculine coaches, and I got bald hair, I got tons of tattoos. I swear sometimes, right? But I'm not that. You know what I mean? I push hard because I believe sometimes you need to push hard. You talk about the, yeah, um, lifetime of limiting beliefs stored up. That's a lot of scar tissue you have to break up. And I think sometimes traditional modalities of help or transformation, it just isn't enough, right? Isn't enough to break all that free. And so I think some people think, like, do it. That's how Joe is, right? But I'm highly emotional too, right? I'm a very intuitive person. When I present, I'm totally in an intuitive state. We did a firewalk for a multi-level marketing pet food company a couple years ago, and we had like 350 people. It was a big fire and big event, and I had 3 hours on stage, and I had this whole thing mapped out. But when I got there, I find out that one of the top leaders got excommunicated. Well, half her team didn't show up, other half. So there's all this negative, weird energy. And I did not know last year at the event, a senior management leader um, was supposed to show up, never showed up. He committed suicide. Right? So so, and that same time, because whatever happens to them happens to us too, right? I was 4 days out of my relationship ending with my girlfriend at the time, and I was in high processing mode, right? So I go on stage, I got my whole routine, and I'm like, this isn't what they need, right? And like I was going to have to make a hard pivot, like deep into woo woo land, deep into closed eye, getting off the stage, getting, corporate event. I usually don't get penetrating with my questions and all that. But I had to go in and move the room, right, so they could heal. And I remember at one point, like, I did something. I thought to myself, like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it, man. And I looked back to the president. I said, I understand what's going on. There's hurting in this room. So I don't know if you're going to like what I'm about to do. It's going to go different than what I told you. But if you trust me, I think we're going to like the ending. And I had to pivot the group there
Mm.
solely because of everything in my body was saying. And trust me, I didn't want to go off script because
Yeah.
I would have to, I would have to go closed eye too. Because when I give a closed eye, I take a closed eye, right? I have to step into way out on that limb, start asking questions about people's history, about their childhood, all that transformational work in a corporate environment without permission and expectation for the participants. But I just knew it could have been easier just to stay the course
Yeah,
because I didn't want to
absolutely.
go. I didn't want to go there. I was mostly inside, had a squirrel on the wheel. But I knew I could not. I would be inauthentic. I wouldn't be who I was put on this earth to be. And listening to that intuition, listening to that, I think is my greatest resource, my ability to connect on that level and operate on that level. And I'm in constant fear. Like we talk about fear. Every time I do a big corporate firewalk, every time I know the process, I don't worry about it because I have it. But as we're getting closer, in the back of my brain is saying they're going to hate you, Joe. They're going to hate you, right? Now, I've learned not to pay any mind to it. And I know an hour and a half, I have my ritual. I have my whole thing I get myself ready for. And even when they're introducing me, I don't want to go on stage. Because I'm scared they won't like me. But I know once I step in that space authentically in faith, as you said too, it flows through you. And I don't think I'm special or unique. I think everyone has the ability to get into those types of spaces in their lives. It's just a matter of trusting with faith. And so that's probably the biggest thing that people don't know. They just probably think I'm a little bit like, do.
Well, I think it's good to hear you say, because I feel the same way
Right?
about I say yes to things and it doesn't matter how much I'm getting paid. Fear doesn't disappear based on what's in your bank balance.
No.
It's about we're naked on that stage and we are and for me, I remind myself, this is your purpose. This is what your life's about. It's why you've had the experiences you've had. So you can, and I don't have to be anything other than myself either,
Right, right, right.
because
Yes.
they've asked for me. And the same for you, but it's rare that I hear another speaker say, um, I'm, I'm afraid right up to it. I have the fear right up to it, even when they're announcing my name. I don't want to
Sometimes
go.
you know the event when something
Yeah.
goes different or this changes or that. Oh my God. I'm like, oh, they're going to hate me now. I just know not to feed into it. And I know how to stay in my lane and not touch it.
Yes. Well, there was an interesting thing that a coach of mine did a few years ago. And I'm sure this will be helpful for anybody listening. It was something like 2015, 16, I said to my coach, I don't want to do any more speaking. And she said, why? And I said, well, I just feel like a great big target. And 5'1", so there's nothing great big about me, but not height. And she said, well, what is it you don't want people to think about you? And I thought, the list is endless. I said, well, she's rubbish. And she went, yeah, what else? And I said, well, this is shit. And she said, yeah, what else? And I said, oh, I've seen all this before. She said, yeah, what else? There was nothing else. But in my mind, it felt like I could have like gone on and on and on. But
Or in peace.
when she actually asked me, what is it? And I said it was just these three things. And I was like, hang on, let me just keep thinking. Yeah, there's nothing else there. And she said this brilliant thing to me, and coupled with something Lisa Nichols has said, not to me directly, but my coach said to me, those people cannot stand the air you breathe. And I thought, oh, thank God. Because it's not about me. How can it be about me? I've not even opened my mouth yet. It's about what I
Yes.
represent. It's about me saying you have human potential. Some people don't want to know they've got
Mm,
potential, because if they had it, they'd be living it. So what you're saying about
that
me,
responsibility. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's not about me. The other thing that Lisa Nichols says that massively changed the way I
Mm.
language what I'm saying, which is never prove, defend, expect, or protect. I love it because it just meant here's some stuff that I know. Here I know what works. Here's some stories. And people have permission to reject it or accept it. When they have the permission, the more it's like with firewalking, isn't it?
Oh my.
The minute you say, right, if you've made a decision right now that you're walking, I want you to let go of that. And if you've made a decision you're not, let go about that. Just give yourself permission to make the decision when you're in front of the fire, because you don't know yet. You might have made the decision 5 minutes ago that you're doing. Well, that version of you isn't as wise as the version of you 5 minutes later. And the minute they've got permission not to walk over, they're like, oh my God, so it's my choice. So I get to choose. Yeah, you're dead right. You get to choose. So your thing that people don't know about you, about that fear, um, people will say, well, why, if you have this fear, why do you put yourself through it? And my goodness, we do put ourselves through it, don't we? Because the moment we're looking into a month or 3 weeks and we're like, we've got that on, we've got that, we've said yes to that, we're doing that. And it keeps us awake, it keeps us in our consciousness. We're not on all the time. I don't know about you, but my mind is thinking about, what does this Lisa know compared to the one before? Like, what
Right.
new inspiration have I got? And I also don't script, or I don't
Right.
script. And that makes us even more nervous.
Yeah.
So the reason I do it is because it's my promise. It's my promise. It's the reason why life gave me all the experiences that I've had that have brought me here. And my no matter how nervous I am, it is not bigger than the work I'm here to do. So what's your reason for, even though you work with the fear all the way through, why do you put yourself through it as well?
Responsibility. Because your audience will only be as vulnerable as you are willing to be too. And I don't mean like getting up on the stage and telling a story and crying or getting emotional, right? But like they might not know it, but they feel it. I cannot ask or require my group to be to be authentic, to be vulnerable in this moment, whether I have 15 minutes with you or 4 days with you. I'm requiring you to be vulnerable. And and vulnerability might be, hey, I'm choosing not to walk because the fire isn't calling me today. That's vulnerability, right? It's not always doing it. Sometimes it's just as much not doing it. But I have to step there first. If I don't, then I'm not transparent. And if I'm not transparent, they won't be transparent. So I think one of my secret weapons of being able to achieve the results I have with people on different levels is my ability to step in that space first,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because that that creates almost like a commitment, a bond, an agreement now. It also shows them that it is safe to, because they don't have that belief. Maybe not yet, but when they see it, and again, they might not even know why or what, but they feel it. They feel it. We've all been in front of speakers where, like, oh, we thought they were just talking to us. And we've been in speakers where if you secretly like snuck everyone out of the room and that person wouldn't change one iota of the thing that they're saying, right? That connection, I think, creates the space for that transformation, the real transformation to occur and then grow.
I hear you. I hear you. Whew. So, my final question before
Go
I
ahead.
release you to your good American day is, what bit of wisdom or a quote that you live by that may help someone listening?
Well, can I tell a little bit of a backstory to it?
Yeah, do.
So before I got into coaching, 16 years old, I started a disc jockey business, weddings and parties and things like that, right? Then I eventually got into country music. And I really did mostly country bars. I taught country line dancing and couples dancing and all that stuff, right? That's something someone didn't know about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I literally had 2 weeks clean and sober. And I was DJing in a bar, one of my bars, and it was a dead night. So like I wasn't, my mind was wandering. And like, like typical pubs, they have like multiple TVs on the same channel. And it was all on ESPN. And every commercial was like a beer commercial. And all I wanted to do was go and drink, right? I was like 10 steps away from a bar. And I knew if I walked to that bar, if I asked the bar, if I walked up there saying, I'm just going to get a water, that's not what's going to come out of my mouth. They're going to go give me a shot of tequila and a beer. Right? I didn't want to get high. I did not want to get high. Remember, there was this phone list. When you go to 12-step meetings, you get a phone list when you're new of other people that you can call. And I remember saying, putting like the first phone number in my phone and laying it down. And I was in this moment, and I think I was going to go to the bar. It was just a matter of time. And I remember I looked up. On these TVs was ESPN, the sports channel. And they was doing a documentary about a guy named Jimmy Valvano. He was a basketball coach, died of a terminal illness, and was a huge inspiration. I mean, he took like a Cinderella team to the national basketball championships and just inspired people's lives so much. One of those rare human beings. And he had a quote. And when I looked up on 23 TV screens, I saw these words: Don't give up. Don't ever give up. That gave me the impetus to call the first person. They weren't there. I called the second person. I called 20 people. Not one of those suckers picked up the phone. But it broke my pattern enough where I called my girlfriend, who I was living with, and I said, I want to use tonight. I need you to talk me home. And I look back and like those early recovery days where I made a lot of mistakes, where I never picked up or wrong places, wrong people type of thing. And I don't know if I would have amassed the clean time that I have uninterrupted if I used that day. You know what I mean? And it was that moment because life is hard. Life is unfair. When you think you don't got anything else, life will hit you again sometimes. Just don't give up. Don't ever give up. If you live by that, you'll find your way through. That's my quote that I live by today.
Thank you for that, because it brings us right back to what you said at the beginning, which was about rather than moments where you knew you were meant for more, you can remember the moments where you felt like you weren't meant for more, and that you can only know that because you considered the not surviving. And so it brings us right almost full circle back to that. Don't give up. And it's so true. I was coaching a client earlier and we were celebrating her distance of growth and travel. And you can really see this big wave of success coming towards her, or what success looks like for her. But we can see the moments where she could have said, I need to change tact. And it's that, don't give up, keep with it, keep believing, keep going, because you're building. But right now is when people would give up because it looks like failure, but because it isn't
Looks
failure,
like failure.
it's
Yep.
progress. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like when somebody doesn't break the board the first time, but they do it the second time, but yet they still say they failed. No, you
Yep.
didn't. So it's all that language we choose to use on ourselves. Don't give up. Thank you so much, Joe. I'm going to so enjoy listen to this again. Could I ask you to send me your modeling photographs for professional purposes? You understand?
Well, yes, but in all honesty, if you go to my Facebook page,
Are they there?
scroll down. I just posted a whole. I just reposted them because a
Okay.
friend of mine found me. An old friend of mine sent me a copy. He found he had there was a it was Valentino menswear. It was a full page out in ad out in Vanity Fair, but I did not have a copy of it. So he sent that to me. So I published that. I posted that, but I also was on the back cover of Interview magazine and the 6 pages of Rolling Stone magazine. So
Right. Well, I will.
I reposted them.
I'll
So if you
find
can't find
them.
them, let me know. Yeah.
I'll find them and I'll insert them at the point where you were talking about it. Oh, so Joe, thank you.
Wait. So understand, I have blonde hair,
Yeah.
curly, very Bon Jovi-ish.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I look radically different than how I do today.
So I'm to believe it's you. You say it's you, but I'm to
It's
trust
me.
and believe it's you.
It says my name.
Well, I've so enjoyed this conversation. I hope
Me too,
everybody
Lisa.
listening has, and I hope you have as well, Joe. And here's to many more conversations on and off air.
Please.
But I've loved it. Thank you for who you are, darling.
Thank you for trusting and inviting me into your space.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.